Out here in the wild, where the heart beats free, we're crafting our dreams, just my family and me. From sunrise to sundown, we're making our way, building our legacy, day by day. Welcome to the Wildheart Podcast, where passion meets purpose, homeschooling, homestead, and living dreams that serve us. Together we're stronger through every stormy weather. The Wildheart legacy, bound forever. With hands in the air, we're teaching our young ones.
So, we're live. Welcome.
Hi.
This is the Wildheart Podcast.
It's like this is the
The what? What are we? I'm Tony. This is
Aaron.
And today we're covering nurturing early skills, homeschooling life lessons for ages 3 to 5, we'll say. And probably we'll be talking about one-year-old as well. Probably we'll interjecting it a little bit throughout because we have a 1-year-old as well. What have we been doing for the last couple of weeks though?
It is August.
Which
August means that it is back to school time.
For
Most people in
most
the world.
others.
However, for me, it means that it is prime time to plan for the month ahead.
For the school activities that we are homeschooling with.
Yep. So myself and the other mom who run our co-op got together and we basically planned some activities to do for September. We got a couple of things hammered out in terms of, different things that we can look into. Like we're looking into a space that we could potentially rent or kind
During
of
the cold
mingle
winter
in.
months.
Yeah, like it'll just be like an audible, like, ooh, it's really gonna be cold this week, kind of
It
thing.
will be minus 40 with the
Degrees
wind
Celsius.
chill. Yeah. We live in Canada. It's cold here, and snowdrifts can get bigger than you.
Yes. Yeah, so we've been doing that, and then just, it's like, I feel like the garden is starting to, like, wind down a little bit. Like
We
some of
still
the
have
stuff.
to eat some of that spinach. That vine spinach.
Yeah, I just meh. And then caterpillars. We've been doing the caterpillars. This is our 3rd year.
I feel like it's longer, but at least
4th
third
year maybe.
Yeah. We should explain. So
Yeah.
we every year, for the last 4 years, 4 years ago we noticed that there were some
Black
things.
swallowtail caterpillars.
Yeah, on our carrots specifically. They seem to like the carrots. So every year since then, we've made sure to plant carrots, and always on the green. They come back. So food for thought. If you have the want to demonstrate how a caterpillar turns into a butterfly for your children, this is a great activity. If you have carrots in your backyard, that's a higher chance that that will happen for you.
Yeah, black swallowtail butterflies like to lay their eggs on carrots and dill, parsley, and there's one other plant that I can't remember the name of. But yeah, you can find them on those ones. If you have any milkweed around, you could probably find some monarch caterpillars. Those are really good because you can watch those grow. And then, there's...
Well, we've learned a few lessons from that. We might as well just go right into it. I haven't really talked about what I've been doing, but, work. And I finished a big job recently.
Yeah.
It was nice. But, let's just skip right into the topic.
You're boring.
Yeah, I work a lot. Lots of kids' activities, though. I'm trying to do my part as well. But, so, like, one of the things you could do, and one of the things that we do is try to just incorporate life skills into what we do on a day-to-day basis, whether it be food preparation,
Gardening.
gardening, outdoor skills, fixing
Fixing
things around the
things.
house, fundamentals of money, budgeting, mapping,
money.
navigation, critical thinking, and I think sales are also important because we sell pretty much everything we do in life is sales to a certain extent.
Yeah, whether you're trying to sell. Oh, I was going to say sell yourself, but
Well,
I don't mean that.
I mean, dating is sort of a selling yourself activity. You have to sell yourself. They have to woo your mate.
I was thinking more along the
I
lines
know
of
what
when
you
you
were
go to a
thinking.
job interview and you gotta talk about yourself a little bit. I was not talking about the oldest
Nothing.
profession.
Yeah.
This is why we're not made for children, as in our podcast.
Nobody knows that we have to click. This is not made for children. So when we start the podcast, YouTube makes you check if this podcast is made for children, even though we're talking about them and educating them.
We are adults that say adult things.
Like that. So, age group 3 to 5. It'll apply.
Ish.
Some of the stuff will be, whenever your child is ready to take on the information, I'll say.
Yeah, but I also feel like there's ways you can scale it down.
Yeah.
And scale it up. Like we had our daughter, well, I should say you had our daughter baking when she was 2.
Yeah.
We're helping with baking.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just the concept of pouring it into the big bowl and mixing,
Yeah.
Kids love that stuff.
Yeah.
Getting messy, throwing things in the bowl, sometimes on the ground, and getting them all over yourself. So I mean, cooking, baking, all those things. There's steps to everything, right? You don't start by making a gourmet meal. You start by learning what ingredients are. For a little while there, we were learning what the different food groups are, what the healthiest portion things on your plates are and the least healthy. So we still do that on occasion,
Mm-hmm.
What's the healthiest thing on your plate? And she lists off all the, veggies, meat, and then what's the least healthiest, all the carbs and whatever else we have on there.
Yeah.
What are the things that you would say because you're doing a lot of things with herbs, so I mean that you could go into that if you want.
Herbs.
And cooking, how do you integrate herbs and cooking?
most of my my herbs are more medicinal, so I don't really integrate them much into cooking.
Clearly, okay.
Per se.
But you could.
I don't know how calendula would do in cooking.
You don't know until you try.
You know what? It's not really cooking per se, but one thing that our daughter really enjoys doing with me is teas.
There you go.
She really likes tea. Mostly because she likes the honey in the tea.
Yeah.
But she likes asking me what the herbs are and, what they're good for. And then ooh, do they taste tasty? So we have stuck mostly to the hibiscus tea because she really likes hibiscus tea.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then other than that, I don't really use
well,
my
she
herbs
likes to
much.
pick the green onion out of the garden.
She really likes the green onion. I would consider that more of a vegetable, though, than a
I even got her.
herb.
We tried some of that viney spinach as well.
Yeah. Tastes different than regular spinach.
It's sweeter.
Yeah.
So we have this spinach that's vine. I don't know the name, but
Vine spinach.
it's a vine spinach. It's very tasty. Can recommend.
Who's Ken? Just kidding.
And so the steps of making a sandwich, even just toasting the bread.
We used to let her do that. Now if I put bread and the sauce, the mayo and the meat in front of her all disassembled, she'll just eat it all separately.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've done that. It was for a while there. She wasn't eating her sandwiches at lunchtime when I put them together. So I was like, all right, cool. So I was in the process of making my own food for myself and the little guy. So I just had like the toast and the meat, and I think I put the mayo on the bread, and I just kind of left it separate, and I had a little handful of cheese. And the next thing I know, she's like eating it all, but she's eating it separate.
Huh?
She didn't put it together. It just made me chuckle.
It's a playful way to get, disassembled sandwiches, and baking is really the big one that you have to assemble it. So otherwise, it will not work.
And you've been baking banana bread with her forever.
I think we're almost at the point where she's memorized the recipe. So that's always good. Yeah, but the measuring is a big part of that. Just the concepts of the different fractions of the cup. If we've just recently used some of the measuring cups, how many of what's can we use to make a whole cup? And I don't know if we're there for fractions yet, but just like understanding, it's like, hey, we need 2 of these, 1 of these, yada yada yada. And look, if I've done the demonstration, 2 half cups fill a full cup. Things like that always help with just starting to introduce the ideas of fractions and how they work. So, the chemistry of baking a cake, and what does what in the cake for what's the binder, what makes it rise,
The levitator.
And what makes it sweet, what makes it stick together, and so on and so forth. We got a lot of these, so we should probably move on.
Yeah.
What's the next one?
I was gonna say too, though, like just making some of the basics of like, how do we keep things clean? Because our daughter is a fan of tasting, and then just like she'll like dip her spoon in, she'll taste, and then she'll go in for another dip before you actually put
the cap on.
Yeah, or like before you've like cooked it, or like she's like, ooh, that's tasty, or like she'll take the chocolate chips and she'll like be eating them out of your cookie dough, and you're like, stop that. Or my favorite, she takes both hands and she squishes them in the flour.
Yeah. Well, I started that by giving her a transfer activity of like, we have a smaller flour container in the kitchen from the big flour that we have in the basement for storage. And every now and then we have to fill it, so I gave her the activity of like transferring it but then she just turned into playing with it.
It was a big mess.
It was fun, so
sometimes you have to accept the messes.
She cleaned it.
She actually did a really good job of helping me clean up today too. It's really nice. We could do home skills, so whether it's fixing, cleaning, tidying, and just understanding the basic concepts that when you spill something, you're supposed to wipe it up, and when you spill something that needs to be swept, you sweep it up, and how to do that properly. She loves our spin mop. Not that I mop often, but she loves it. Like the first day I was gonna use it, she's like, "Can I mop the floor?" And I'm like,
"Yes, you may."
I guess. I'm like, I was excited to use my new mop, but okay, I guess my child's excitement overrides mine. She mopped the whole damn floor. It was amazing. She often gets out, and our little
life
guys.
hack: get yourself a spin mop.
Yeah. Make cleaning fun.
Yeah,
they'll want to do it.
Yeah, and not even that. Just make cleaning a thing that you do. It's like just not even doesn't have to be fun. It's just, hey, we're a team. This is what we do. If you don't do it, then one of us is gonna have to do it.
I can't remember exactly what it was. It was a reel or a TikTok that I saw recently that basically was like, instead of looking at cleaning or like home maintenance as a chore, think of it as a way to like care for your home. Right?
And also for your family.
Well, yes, it was directed to the home though. Like, if we don't take care of our home won't take care of us.
Okay.
right? Like if we don't take care of our home will start to fall apart. It'll start to get really dirty, and we'll have bugs coming in or mice or whatever, right?
A to Z.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like if we don't take care of our bodies will start falling apart.
Yeah.
Bit by bit.
Yeah, essentially.
Anyways.
You could go into standard fix-it stuff around the house.
You're good with that. Like, I know
introducing screwdrivers and different bits. We do a lot of painting.
Yeah, she loves painting.
You're the painter, so I mean.
Most of the time you've been painting. I painted my office. That was it.
But she also helped, right?
Yes.
We just popped a big shirt on her.
Massive shirt for the little buddy. She was so cute. When I was massively pregnant. Like I know when you've been doing some like work around the basement, she's been helping out with that stuff.
A good task for painting is to like obviously introduce a paintbrush and you could just get them to dry paint, just with nothing on the toothbrush, nothing on the paintbrush, just starting to get used to what strokes you're going to be doing. And once they show themselves capable of that, you can get them to either out of your container with monitoring, or just starting to paint the corners, like all the trim corners. And obviously you're doing these in places where you don't mind if there's overpaint or we were doing inside cubbies, so it's literally all the corners needed to be painted anyway, and if it was a little thick or thin, it didn't really matter because you're going to roll over certain sections anyway around them. So
yeah, and like
it's a good little introduction.
We made sure that she was kept to spaces that were going to be all of the same color, not like right on the corner cusps.
Yeah. So, and just we started patching. I think one of her dolls hit the wall right on a nail.
Yeah,
and I think it chipped the wall. And we started patching it, and she did the patch. I showed her how to do it, and she did her own patch. Where next step is going to be paint, priming and paint. And so that's just little things, and I mean, a 4-year-old is capable of it. Ours is.
So, she's almost 5.
Learning how to use a measured tape. It's great for...
That was not her favorite thing, but that was one of the favorite things she, like... We got a little tiny measuring tape from Home Depot, I think it was.
Yeah, it's like a keychain. They have them usually at the counter.
A little Milwaukee one to match yours.
Yeah.
And yeah, she for a little while there when she was really young, everything was 246.
Yeah.
This is 246.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. And this is 246. I'm like, okay.
But she would copy and copy me, and I think I was doing a lot of drywall at the time in the basement, so I was doing a lot of just measuring cuts and whatnot.
To watch her go up to the drywall and just, it's 246.
Yeah, that was one thing. So yeah, introducing that, and there's 100 things you could do around the house, right?
Oh yeah, and just getting them involved. I think just like you said, giving them a little lesson on like what a screwdriver is. And I know we've talked about doing like a busy board and like just having like screws to like screw in and
I think the
different things.
Biggest thing, I mean, the way I think of it is like treat them like a little apprentice.
Yep.
But the biggest thing is you don't want to take over for them if they're struggling. You want to let them struggle, because that's how they learn. And if you do it for them, you're taking away that learning for them. So just be mindful of, yes, things will take longer, but accept it as part of the learning. So just that's the biggest advice. I mean, that's life really, but
sit on your hands.
Yeah, don't get frustrated because they're doing it too slow. Just give them a task that isn't time sensitive, or isn't time sensitive for you to have completed for you to do something. You could usually divvy up the work amongst multiple tasks, and there's like the one thing over here that they could be doing and figuring out how to do on their own while you do all these other tasks over here. So just think of it that way. Break the things that you're doing into small chunks and just give them a little chunk of one of the tasks, and they'll observe you, they'll see what you're doing, and you know, if they take an interest in something in particular, if they're capable of it, give them a little chunk of that task too. So
Yep.
outdoor skills is next.
Yeah.
We've been doing a little bit of this, and I think you have something planned in the homeschooling group for...
Yes, most of our homeschool activities are going to be based off of the curriculum, the science curriculum, and we tend to be outside as much as possible. It's nice that most of the science curriculum in the elementary school age range is predominantly like, how does the world work in terms of weather, solar system, trees, paper, colors, like literally everything. Water. It's so nature. It's great. So yeah, our daughter has been, you know, hands-on in the garden. She's been helping me harvest herbs. She actually was giving my mom a garden tour the other day, and she's like, and this is my zinnia, and these are the wild roses, and this is the chamomile, and she knew every single plant. And like, my mom would be like, oh, what's this one for? And she's like, oh, that's the chamomile, we use it for tea. It's just like, she knew. And I'm like, I love it that you're like in on the plants, and like, she knows how to recognize plantain, which is like, I don't know, that was the first herb that I ever really learned about too, because my grandma taught me that when I was really little. But she's like, my dad came to visit on, I don't know, whatever day this past week, and we were standing there just chatting he was grabbing the wood. Oh, sorry.
It's all good.
And she looks down, she's like, look, plantain, or no, she's like, ooh, frog leaf.
Yeah.
And she like picks it up, and she's like, whoa. She hands it to my dad. It was really funny.
I think I mean, outdoor skills in general, like, she even today on the walk to the mailbox, she mentioned clover. She kind of pointed it out and started looking at it, and she was very excited. And also, we picked the apples from the neighboring tree that was basically the apples are falling into the back lane, so
yeah, they do every year. There was another thing too that you know, like, we do a lot of like hikes and stuff like that with our homeschool group, you know, identifying different plants, as we said. Biomes, like even just different animals. Like, she's really good at she's really inquisitive about animals. Like, I don't have anyone to compare off of, but I feel like she's got a really good understanding of what animals are what.
Yeah,
like,
and like we had the activity that was identifying carnivores versus omnivores
and herbivores.
And just, we've had, I mean, lots of bonfires and stuff in the back as well, so like, just outdoor safety of hey, bonfires can burn you, and you know, you got to look out for we haven't had the opportunity to see poison ivy or anything, but you know, just being aware that it's out there, and ticks. Like, we had a tick experience earlier this year where,
surprisingly, I don't think she saw them enough to realize what was happening.
Yeah, she might have had a worse time than it could have been, but like, we kind of played it off a little bit nonchalant to ensure that she didn't have any issues or trauma from it.
Yeah, the first one, she had lifted up her shirt, and I was like, oh man, there's one right on your tummy. Like, I didn't say that, but that was one.
And then we missed one in her hair. That was there for a day, I think.
I didn't see that one in her hair.
Yeah, and but you know, it was one of those things that we you know, it's a learning opportunity as well, right?
Yeah, she was just like, man, okay, whatever.
So, concepts of money. I think the first one, like, other than basics of like numbers and math, like, we're already pretty well into math and addition, subtraction, but even
sorry, I just remember she's been like, because I've been playing the number block songs.
Yeah.
She's been singing them to herself, and today she's sitting in her room, and I was like going through her clothes, and she's like, 7 and 7. Mama, 7 and 7 is 14. And I'm like, yes, it is. And she goes, okay. Just like 3 sevens is... And then she's like, you can tell she's like singing the song in her head, and she's like 21. I'm like, yeah. And then she got stuck on 4s. She was like 2 4s is 8. And I'm like, uh-huh. And then she's like, 3 4s is 1, 2, 3, 4. And then she started counting, but she kept going past 12. And I was like, yeah, there's like such an easier way of doing it. Like 4 and 4 is 8. She's like, yeah. And I'm like, let's count 4 more. She's like, oh. So I was like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. She's like, oh, 12. I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
And then she's like, 4 and 4, square.
Number blocks are great for math and learning math.
It makes it fun, and like their songs are so catchy. Like I keep singing the 4 times table song.
Yeah, it's a good one. And they essentially make numbers into characters, and they all have their colors, their intricacies. Like
their gimmick, if you will.
Yeah, like there's I forget. I don't.
3 has three balls or 3
juggles
buttons and juggles.
And 4 is kind of derpy, and 9 always sneezes, and
7 is all the colors
and very lucky.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's one of those. It's a fun way to learn numbers, and it gets all the way into times tables. I mean, you're learning multiplication at 4.
Yeah.
She's learning. We were going through the second or 2 and 3 times tables today. So I mean, it can be fun.
Yeah, and I know we did like a little money identifying. So I think with that we started with like leaf rubbing, because we did that in one of our interpretive programming through the provincial park here, and then
that was just like taking a leaf, putting a piece of paper over it, and rubbing a crayon to basically copy the leaf onto the paper.
And I was like, ooh, we can do that with money. I remember doing that with money.
Yep.
And then that evolved into, let's start looking at identifying these coins. And I think you put together a little
I'll post that on our website, just so you have it. It's like a PDF. It's all the Canadian currency. It's Canadian centric. I did include silver, gold, and Bitcoin, because those are also of value and currency, and I think it's valuable to know that they exist, and probably will have better value than currency. Anyway, just the concepts that
and you guys have been playing shop quite a bit.
I was going to get into that in sales.
Well, I mean,
but
does
it will just float right into that. So I mean, as one of the sales things, we've been playing shop for a while, and in the tub, essentially we're just using whatever's floating in the tub as currency, and she'll open up a shop, whether it be, sometimes it's a fish shop because there's fishies floating around, and so I order fried fish. Sometimes it's a sandwich shop or a burger joint, and usually it's inspired by our dinners too. So whatever we had for dinner is usually the shop that she'll make. And I'm just buying, she dictates the price. How much is this? And for a while everything was $1. I'm like, oh, so you're saying, and then I kind of made her realize that everything shouldn't be $1 by saying, I think we were comparing grapes to like hamburgers.
Yeah,
and
something like that.
and so I'm like, oh, so this one grape is $1, and this hamburger is worth $1. Well, then I'll just get all hamburgers. And she ran out of food, and so she's like, oh, like maybe I shouldn't do $1 for everything. Kind of, she had that like aha moment, and so she started varying the pricing based off of the value of the food a little bit. And then I was able to actually integrate the addition of, if I'm getting one grape for $1 and a hamburger for $5, how much do I owe you? And she had to do the math and ask. And then once I gave her exact change for a while, and then eventually we got into, you're giving me some change back. And so it's, it's playtime in the bathtub.
Yep.
it's
lessons.
It's lessons. So you just integrate it wherever you can.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I think too, like another thing that we've been doing with the whole money thing is whenever she gets money, like whether sometimes your parents give her money or she gets money for birthday or whatever,
Yeah.
it's a question of, how much do you want to save and how much do you want to spend? Or like we have a spending jar and then we have
haven't
a saving
dictated
jar.
how much you should or shouldn't.
Not
but
really. It's just right now. It's just like we should be saving something.
Yes.
But if you want to, you can spend it all. And like we haven't really given her many opportunities to spend.
Yep.
But maybe we'll do that tomorrow. Maybe I'll take some of her money, see if she wants to spend some money at the mall when we go.
Yeah,
there.
half of the battle of like saving or spending is like she doesn't have the drive yet. Like, because for when kids have something they really want to get, they'll seek it out until they get it. But she doesn't have that like, oh, I really want this X thing yet, or she doesn't have a concept of what she would really want to spend her money on just yet. So,
yeah, because usually it's just like she sees the thing and she goes, "Ooh, could we take a picture of this so someone can buy it for me for my birthday?"
something like that. Side note, that's a great thing to do instead of getting your kids to beg for things in the stores anytime you go. But that, going into sales, that's one thing that your kids learning for everything in life is in a sense, it's some form of sales interaction, whether it's your kid trying to convince you that they need a toy, or if it's that you're selling
A service or a product.
yeah. So dating is in a sense a selling of yourself. In like,
Sounds so wrong.
yeah, but like in the negotiations.
This
and
is what I will offer you for what you will offer me.
No, but like these are my features. This is my.
These are my features, he says.
This is who I am, and so on and so forth. So,
Yes.
I think I did a good enough job. We're married.
Yes, your features are very striking.
Negotiation. Playing out scenarios. And,
She's getting really good at the negotiating.
in some cases.
Can we do one more? Mama?
She's
One
pushing,
more.
but she's not her she's pushing for it, but just setting those limits and where they're applicable. But
it's fun because like sometimes she'll go one more and I go nope, no more, and she goes 2 more. Like that's more than the first one you gave me. But it's funny because like she was negotiating with you the other day.
today at bedtime, because often it's like historically the negotiators have been begging, and to not play into it, it's like, no, begging doesn't work. You don't get another one. Today she asked very nicely, and she got the reward of we'll do one more, and it was we'll do a short. So it was one of those things where the method of negotiating plays a part. So
The basics of bargaining in a playful manner. I like the way that they said that.
yeah, and just people skills, saying please and thank you, saying introducing yourself. We're still working on that, but at the end of the day, it's a skill. It's a people skill.
Yeah. I think she's got some pretty good people skills. She just doesn't want to necessarily interact with everyone.
No, and that's a
totally
people
fine.
skill. Sometimes being silent and watching is the best people skill you could have.
Yep. I love when we go to the park and she watches like everyone that's there. Like we had when we went to the park the other day, or like last week or whatever it was, there was a couple of older kids that came through and she's just watching them. She's like trying to figure out what's going on, and they were hanging out by the sandbox, and then she wanted to go to the sandbox, but I'm like, these kids look a little sketchy. Anyways, so she's like, Mama, are these bad kids? And I'm like, what makes you think that? And she's like, well, and then she kind of like explained her reasoning, and I'm like,
it could be
sound reasoning. Yeah, I don't get the greatest vibe from these kids either, so. Like, one of them looked like he jumped straight out of the 90s, but was like a tweaker. It was crazy. Like,
fun.
yeah, I was like, I cannot wait till school starts so that we get the park to ourselves again.
We have a whole slew of activities planned for when school starts, and we're doing it at home. So
yes, and it's like Evie, she's getting so much more excited now about that. Like, because I was saying, like, oh, you know, in a couple of weeks we're gonna have like the school buses are gonna come again, and she's like, oh. And she's like, oh, is our neighbor girl gonna be going to school? And I said, yep, you know, she goes to school. Her parents, you know, don't homeschool. She's like, oh, but I homeschool so I can stay home. She's like so excited about it. She was like sad that these kids had to wake up early and go to school.
Yeah, you get the sleep in kid.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways.
So
there's not an easy transition into the maps and the navigation.
Well, we've done it. So I mean, one way we introduced it was just for a little while.
No, you need to be better in the screen.
Okay. For a little while in the mornings, I was leaving an activity for our daughter, and so one of those activities I introduced the idea of like the map of the house. So it's, you know, I think there was one point that I introduced like, hey, a map is a top-down picture of the house, and we kind of drew one out. There's a point we were drawing out what our backyard could look like with you know, different thing, but just, you know, where's the tree in the backyard, where's the deck, where's the this and that. And so she was like, we were just kind of drawing it together. Then we recently drew the house out because we had to measure the roof. So it's one of those, like, we're doing it over and over again for mapping, and there's lots of opportunities to do it. But once we had a map of the inside of the house, just essentially doing like an Easter egg hunt or a find the toy or chocolate or pick your thing, and just what I was doing is I left the things around and then marked with X's on the map, and it was essentially a egg hunt in the morning. I remember you saw it. I'd left it for her.
My favorite was when you did that. One of the times that you did that, and then she was like, ooh, we should do it for Papa. And then she went and hid things and marked them on the map. So not only was she like figuring out where the X's were on the map, she was then hiding things and then relating it back to the map. Like, she took it a step farther, just all on her own too. Like, she loves the maps. I think one thing that I would really enjoy doing with her would be either like basically doing an outdoor scavenger hunt that way. Would be really fun. And I know you have been working on like the different directions with her.
Well, her favorite thing to say is never eat soggy wieners, which is north, south, east, west. First letters of each that.
North, east, southwest.
Never eat soggy wieners.
Yeah.
That's in my truck. It shows the direction you're going, so it helps orientate with the world where we are too. If I think she has a very good handle on her spatial awareness, like when we're close to home, close to she's different really places.
Good. She will recognize where you are.
Yeah.
While driving, like she's like
the parks.
Like she knows where you guys went snowboarding several years ago, and she's like, we went snowboarding there, and I'm like, yeah. We also did an orienteering event with our homeschool group that was basically just learning the directions, and although she was very quiet during the introduction piece, once we actually started going and doing like the I guess the scavenger hunt part, she I would read the direction or the clue out, and she would know which direction she was going, and she'd be like, this way, and I'm like, yes, you're correct. Yeah, so she really enjoys those.
Yeah, and I think the final and last but not least, developing
critical thinking.
Developing language. No,
I feel like this is maybe not the most challenging, but it's the most difficult to like conceptualize, because it's a learned behavior, but it's also modeled by the people that you're around as well.
Yeah.
You know, because we have to be good critical thinkers.
Yeah.
In order for her to...
And you have to allow the space for them to question you. And, you know, a lot of people operate from themselves as being the authority, but I've repeated, you know, the concept of chronological age does not dictate that you know everything, you know. It's not just because somebody's older doesn't mean they know things. It's been proven time and time again. And, you know, question everything.
Well, and I think one way that I kind of help with this whole like logical sense of the world, like the cause and effect part, where I'm like, oh, you know, please don't do X, Y, Z. And she goes, why? Instead of saying, well, because I said so.
Yeah, never.
It's like, no, because that doesn't answer the question.
Yeah.
So then I explain why we shouldn't do that thing, right? You know,
scenarios of...
please don't jump off the table. Why? Well, if you jump off the table, if you land wrong, you can hurt yourself. Also, tables are not for feet.
And, you know...
And now it's like, you also have a brother who's going to try, and he's going to hurt himself more.
Yeah, you're the example is often used nowadays, and you have to... You already know what you should and shouldn't do. But, you know, it's a constant awareness that you have to bring into conversations where you're actively allowing them to question you and everything around you, because you know, whether it's simple problems of like if something breaks, do you fix it, or do you you know, is it worth fixing? Is it, you know, there for a little while, like if something breaks, it's like, oh, Papa can just epoxy it.
Yeah, literally, Papa can fix it.
And then once you demonstrate that not everything is fixable, you have to, you know, examine that, you know, oh, like there was a Barbie, like we epoxied the Barbie head back on, but, you know, the Barbie hair got a little gluey too, so it's, you know, there's side effects to just, you don't want everything to be breaking all the time.
Yeah.
Because then you might have to get rid of them. You know, different. I think you know the rest you've pretty much covered here. So.
Yeah, I think the only other thing that I would say with that is that, like, even when we do, I don't know, I can't remember the specific examples of this event, but I essentially do like little role plays or scenarios with her, where like sometimes she'll ask like something not silly, because it's a 4-year-old asking questions, right? But like, oh, why can't I go outside in my sweater when it's like 30 degrees outside, 30 degrees Celsius? And I'm like, well, because you'll be really hot. And she's like, oh. And I kind of let her experience that, but then I'm like, afterwards we can talk about it and be like, okay, well, what could we have done differently so we weren't so hot, because, you know, you decided you wanted to go out in your sweater. And then, you know, she can kind of think about like, okay, well, it was hot outside, so I could have worn these things instead, or like, you know, there's other things where like we'll kind of go through a scenario of how she could do things differently.
The selection of shoes has been a big one too.
Yeah.
What shoes do you select for which occasion?
Yeah.
You know, just because you have new shoes doesn't mean that is a good shoe to go out for every occasion.
Yeah. And the new shoes are a little bit big, so she knows that if she wears them, they could come off her feet, but also too they kind of rub at the back and they might cause her blisters.
Yeah, and Crocs are great, but they're not fancy, and then the fancy shoes are not great for outdoors, running through puddles, even though she does it sometimes anyway. But then you discover that the new shoes aren't so shiny. So you allow things to break, allow things to get damaged or used or worn for the sake of the lesson. It's better for the 4-year-old shoes to be worn than she discovers her favorite shoes at 20 or whatever.
Yeah, and then decides to walk through the forest in heels. I think that skill kind of gets better. Anyways,
but let's summarize the skills. And
basic life skills, cooking, being outdoors, learning how to fix shit around your house, money, selling things, namely yourself,
maps, navigation.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And critical thinking. So, things that you can integrate into any aspect of your life. We hopefully gave you a lot of ideas how we do it on a day-to-day basis.
I think the biggest thing in trying to work these skills into your children, how to help your children build these skills, is probably a better way of phrasing it, is just to let them be involved. Right now, when your little ones are little and they're very impressionable, one of the biggest things that they want to do is just be with you. And if you're doing something that wouldn't be super, it's not dangerous if they can just hang out with you and learn a little bit.
Yeah.
Awesome. I understand cooking on a stove.
And even if it is dangerous, a certain level of danger is acceptable.
Yeah.
Doing dangerous things safely is the best learning opportunity you can give your children.
Yeah. I know we were teaching our daughter how to tell that a stove is hot, so she'd to hold her hand above the pan or close to the element. She can feel the heat. Okay, don't touch that. It's hot.
Yeah.
If you touch it, it can hurt you.
I do believe there was times in the past where without scalding, just allowing allowing heat to be felt accidentally, and it I remember holding her and even just for a coffee mug, allowing her to touch the coffee mug and feel the heat of the coffee mug and things like that. It was part of that. I keep coming back to this, but the Navy SEAL podcast I listened to recently, the quote I'm pulling a lot from it was, "Pain can be the best teacher."
Pain is generally the best teacher.
So
you will never touch another van light again once you've done it once. Yes, there's a story. So when I was really little, say about our daughter's age, 4 or 5, about 4 or 5, maybe 6. Somewhere in I was in the young age range. And my dad had a van. And my dad said, don't touch this light when the van door is open.
Okay.
So if anyone knows where this is going, me being a very bright child was like, but if I close the door, I can touch the light. Because he didn't say, don't touch the light when the van door has been opened.
Yeah.
You just said don't have the van door open and touch the light. So anyways, I closed it. I touched the light. I got really bad burn on my finger. But I learned not to touch the light because lights can be hot when they've been on.
Incandescence, before the world of LEDs.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to doing this, and this is not a 3 to 5 year old, unless your 3 to 5 year old is able to write. But 3 to 5,
she can write,
whenever she write out instructions. There's this video I saw of a guy who was in basically his kids had to write down instructions how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and detailed instructions, and he did verbatim what they wrote down, and comically he would, with that, if they didn't specifically say to open the jar, he would just put the whole jar of peanut butter on the bread. And like it would just be like, no, like you would see the frustration in the kids not having clear instructions, how important it is, I guess. But I look forward to doing that someday.
It's funny because it's one of those things where I think we take for granted how much things are just like, you get a jar of peanut butter, you open up the lid and you stick your knife in it, because those are things that we've learned and developed already.
Yeah.
But to explain to someone who is like, say they were born yesterday, which is one of
the lowest common denominator.
One of her favorite Bluey episodes.
Some apprentices, you have to give very clear instructions.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll just end it there.
Every time I give instructions, I'm surprised at the results. Not that they're always negative, but their methodology is not always what I would have done. And I'm just like, I never would have thought of doing it that way. Well, I'm glad it worked out for you. But for future reference, this way is easier. Or, you know what? You figured out a new way to do it. Congrats.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just, like I said, I'm surprised at some of the ways that things get accomplished.
Work smarter, not harder.
That's a good way to end it on.
Yep.
If you have some of your favorite ideas to introduce these topics, or if you think we missed one, let us know. Comments below. We do this every 2 weeks on the Wednesday.
Yep. I had to think about what day it was today.
It's Wednesday, also known as Garbage Day.
Well, the garbage bin. It's bin night.
It's bin night. Yeah, that's about it. We have our website up and running. Take a look at it. I've been posting there semi-regularly. I'll be posting this episode shortly after we're done airing. And yeah, check it out. We have a few things on there. They were just building it out. Some of the links are broken. Let us know.
Some of the links are broken. Or if some of the links are broken.
No, I know some of the links are broken.
Oh, okay.
But I'm working on it.
He works a lot. Be nice. Anyways, going on.
Bye. Take care. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks
See you guys
for
later.
listening.